All right, I'm going to open up with a question. Does anybody know what's on the screen right now? Any idea or memory of what something like this looked like?
Magic Eye.
Magic Eye?
It's a sailboat.
Sailboat. Ah,
It's a
you're getting
schooner.
close.
It's a schooner.
Getting close. You're getting
Sailboat is
close.
a schooner.
So anybody remember going into malls back about 10, 15 years ago, and there was all that 3D art where if you looked at it and crossed your eyes slightly and let your eyes blur, something would eventually, after a long period of time, maybe, Josh said it never actually worked for him, but if you stare at it long enough and your eyes get watery, eventually some 3D image comes into view.
Yeah, I believe
right?
that's the Magic Eye, yes.
Yeah, Magic
That's
Eye.
the sailboat from Mallrats.
This to me is the way I think of a lot of learning in general. Is that a lot of things are very, very complex. You've got a lot of things to learn, and usually at first it's kind of unclear what it is that you're looking at. And oftentimes if you stare at it long enough, if you think about it long enough, eventually, all of a sudden at the last minute, it comes into focus and you understand. I find learning in general kind of works this way. So over the course of today, for those of you guys, you're pretty familiar with EMC, I'm sure you understand that we've got a massive portfolio at our disposal. And I don't say that necessarily in a good way. It is both good, but it's also a challenge for us as well. Hopefully by the end of today's session, and we've got several hours with you today, some of this will start coming into focus, and maybe over time you'll start to glare at this long enough and it's going to eventually look something like this. It'll eventually start coming into picture, understanding kind of how that portfolio kind of fits together and understand where this sits in the overall IT landscape. That's kind of the goal of what we want to get in part of this. So with that being said, welcome to the Gestalt IT Tech Field Day for the EMC session. My name's Aaron Chase, and I'll be back later for another session talking about the overall portfolio. As a quick introduction to myself, I've been at EMC for, I think I just passed my 15th year anniversary. For about 10 years of that time, I was in the field as a field SE, pre-sales technologist. About 6 years of that, 5.5 years of that is on the V specialist team. And recently, I and a couple others came into the marketing organization to kind of help put a broader lens across the overall IT portfolio within EMC, to understand sort of how all of the different pieces fit together. It was fairly simple when we were a Symmetrics company. And maybe it was simple when we started adding things like Clarions into the portfolio. But over the last several years, it's become a daunting task to sort of wrap our brains and get into vision the entire stretch and breadth of the EMC portfolio. And so we're going to be helping to try to put some clarity on that. Now, I'm only here doing this to kind of do the quick introduction right now, but first of all, thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules. Many of you have flown in from very long distances to join us. So thanks for taking a couple of days, not just with us, but with many of the different vendors in the Valley this week, and getting a good update on kind of what's happening in the industry. From an agenda perspective, I'm just going to do that and then I'm going to hand it over. We've broken this down into three sort of macro sections. All right, we've got 4 hours with you, so we want to make sure we can kind of organize it. The first one is going to be really more of a higher level federation overview, the understanding of the broader EMC federation, which is EMC and Pivotal and VMware and RSA, kind of how all these companies are fitting together and the solutions we're working on. The second piece of that is going to be putting more of a sharper lens on the EMC entire storage portfolio. That'll be about 60 minutes. After that, we're going to break off into an entire section dedicated to flash technology and flash trends and what we're doing there. And then we're going to close it off with software-defined data center. So at a macro level, just looking at how that's going to be broken down, all of these are going to be broken down into 20 to 25-minute chunks. So they're nice and digestible, and then we'll move forward. The first one, which I'm doing now, is the introduction. Then Josh Kahn, who's the Senior Vice President of the Global Solutions Marketing, is going to come in and talk about the federation conversation. And then I'll come back and talk about the overall storage strategy. When we move into the flash section, that's going to be about an hour and a half, broken into 4 different sections. Sam Marasini, who kind of helps with the overall portfolio flash strategy, will give you sort of an understanding of how we're addressing flash across the entire EMC portfolio. And then we're going to dedicate a little over an hour expressly to the Extreme IO all-flash array. I know that that's a pretty hot topic in the industry right now, so we want to make sure that we're spending a fair amount of time on just that one particular product and technology. That'll be broken out into the overall use cases and market, the technology overview and architectural overview of the product, and then also some of the core use cases and customer examples that we've been doing with that over the last year. The final piece of this will be a 90-minute section focused on software-defined data center and what we're doing there. So Keith Coughlin is going to come in and talk about the overall software-defined data center landscape, and then we're going to do an entire hour on Viper and talk about Viper data services and control plane capabilities within that product. All right? So that's kind of a high-level understanding. And then if you have any questions, I think many of you know Rob Calloway over in the corner over here. If you've got any questions throughout the day that you need, whether it's about the session or you need to find anything within the building, he's your point of contact to kind of get you anything you need over the course of the next 4 hours, because we were told to give you no breaks. So if you need anything, he'll be the guy that could do that for you. All right? So with that, I'm going to hand it on over to Josh, and we'll move on with the agenda.